Support for Donnybrook Last Call is provided in part by Design Air Heating and Cooling.
He doesn't. No, there's no bushel.
This is Last Call, the topics we couldn't get to in the first 28 minutes and 47 seconds. Sarah Fenske from St. Louis Magazine. Golf carts, city of St. Louis. People are driving them in Soulard and on the Hill. And there's an alderman from the Hill, Matt Devote. Is that how I pronounce his name? He says they should be regulated so that you have to be at least 16, have insurance, drive less than 25 miles an hour, and not drive on the sidewalk. And you're against it.
I am dead set against it. I think we can't start regulating golf carts until we actually regulate cars, which we don't do in this town. We have the most, the drivers are going around almost killing all of us. And these golf carts are kind of just tootling along in the slow lane. I think it's a great thing. It helps people do things that are kind of close to their house, brings vibrancy to neighborhoods. Let's deal with the traffic violence before we stop this nice thing.
Okay, I kind of agree with you, but here's the problem. And I see them not only in the city, but different municipalities and everywhere. And I just see little kids riding on the back, and I see people operating them that I really don't think are 16. Why wait until there's a tragedy to try to maybe kind of take a little bit of control over this? I think it'll take something terrible to happen before we take an action. So let's not wait till then. So I stand with the alderman.
Well, and there's always the unfortunate driving while intoxicated.
That's definitely part of it. Yeah.
Portion of it. And in terms of, when you think of what businesses have to go through to align themselves with the ADA, and so the parking on the sidewalk, I don't know, I have a problem with that. I know what you're saying. It's a lot of fun. It's good for neighborhoods. We're starting to see them in our neighborhoods.
In Chesterfield?
In Chesterfield. Yeah, but I do think there has to be some oversight. I just don't know if we want, because speaking of YouTube, if you watch videos, they are really dangerous when you're on the golf course. I mean, sometimes they can be very, very dangerous.
The question I have is, I thought that the regulation might be that they would have to go on the sidewalk rather than in the street, because I see them on the Hill a lot.
Yeah.
And people are very casual, and there's, it's drinking, and I'm sure in Soulard it's bar to bar, and you've got the drivers in their big cars, and I'm afraid they're going to hit one of the little golf carts. So I thought that if golf carts were going to be allowed, maybe that would be on the sidewalk. So I'm surprised.
Yeah. Now, I think it is unlawful to operate any kind of vehicle while you're intoxicated. All kidding aside, people get tickets because they were driving their track, their little Cub Cadet down to the 7-Eleven, they're dead drunk, and they get a ticket for that.
Yeah.
They're in trouble. So that is regulated. You can't, just because it's a golf cart, you can't
I don't think it's necessarily enforced in all our communities, but it is regulated. I would like to see them get off the sidewalk, and I think part of the reason people get so agitated about these is our drivers all want to go 50 miles an hour, even on these very tight little streets in the Hill. This is just yet another reason that we should slow down. If you're in the Hill and you get behind a golf cart, wait it out.
Okay, Sarah, you like golf carts so much. Are you planning on moving to the Villages in Florida?
Oh, my God.
What?
I mean, so Lafayette Square, where I am a recent former member of, they have a giant golf cart scene. A lot of these just tight little urban neighborhoods, people like to just take them down to the bar, take them to the park.
And in Wentzville, the mayor there, Nick Guccione, just vetoed a bill that would have allowed UTVs, utility terrain vehicles, because they're going through the subdivisions at 45 miles an hour.
Yeah, people don't want to take a giant car to get on these short distances. We need to invent something. If not a golf cart, maybe some safer thing for the kids.
In the old days, people walked.
What's that? What's that? Can't do that.
I agree. Amen, brother. Amen. I like this guy.
You were saying they take their golf cart from bar to bar. How inebriated are you if you can't walk from one bar down the street?
No, what Bill said was they drive.
They drive
to the bar.
To the bar.
And then sometimes over the water. I want to ask you, Wendy, about a parade that's going to be at Mizzou this weekend, the homecoming parade, and the Students for Justice in Palestine wanted to have a float or a parade. They wanted to march in the parade. And then Mun Choi, the chancellor, said no for safety reasons. Other people said This parade's supposed to be for the black and gold. It's not supposed to be political. But the courts have ruled in favor of the students. What do you think?
I think that you're certainly opening it up if the courts have ruled, and if you want to have the more politically aligned organizations participating, then that's going to be the sum and substance of the Mizzou homecoming parade. I mean,
I disagree. I mean, people will have problems with that organization, and I'm sure they're putting together right now, if they didn't have it already, a makeshift student organization of whatever Charlie Kirk's was named, and they'll be Turning Point. They'll be in the parade. If they're a student organization, I don't think you could deny them the right to be in the parade. That is a violation, I guess, because it's a public school, would be my guess. I mean, there'd be some things that maybe I don't agree with, but during that part, I would get in my golf cart and drive away and then come back, after that little group had gone by.
But you won't be able to, they can't pick and choose.
Right.
They're going to have to take
saying.
all comers.
That's the point. The federal government or the Mizzou, Mizzou can't decide that like certain speech is okay and other speech is not okay. So you can't be like, oh, we're going to have the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, but we can't have the people who are in favor of Palestine.
I don't know. It was crazy that the Brazilian Student Association was not allowed in. I know that, everybody's afraid of the federal government. They can take away funding, and the state government listens to whatever President Trump says. But the Brazilian Student Association, I know that President Trump is unhappy with Brazil because they put Bolsonaro, his old friend, the former president, on, convicted him of having trying a coup after he lost his election, but not let the Brazilian Student Association march in the parade. That just seemed like an overreach.
Yeah. And go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick that one thing I will say to this: at University of Missouri, all public schools, be they elementary, high school, college, every single one of them is going to be around long after President Trump is not the president anymore.
Right.
And you might want to think that, we can only take so much, and I will still be here. There will still be a University of Missouri. So just do what you got to do to get by, but don't start telling people what they can and can't do in a parade.
Well, but the only can't, all caps, is KU. That's the only can't. All right, Alvin.
Alvin, I want to ask you about Lambert Field.
Bastion of light and glory.
J.D. Powers and Associates came out with its annual rankings of the top 50 airports, and I think for the second year in a row, Lambert International came in third last. Only two airports, Philly and one other, were worse. I can't remember what the other one was. I like Lambert. What's your opinion?
I don't like Lambert. I thought that when the tornado hit it, 15 years ago, was a grand time to start remodeling it. We're working on this multi-billion-dollar improvement to the airport. It couldn't come too soon. But with that being said, I'm flying out tomorrow. So I love the airport. I love the pilots. I love the planes.
You love the TSA.
You love TSA.
I love TSA.
Yeah.
I love everyone.
Book them, Dano. Book them, Dano.
But seriously, like Lambert seems to, at least in recent history, has been like the child in the middle of a really messy divorce, because you've got so many government entities that are kind of, wanting their say and wanting their piece of the action at Lambert, whether it's St. Charles County, it's the city, the county. So I can understand why Rhonda Hamnaburgi's hands have been maybe a little more tied than they would have been.
I will say I'm with you on this. I've been a fan of this airport just because of the ease of dealing with it. It's so simple, and it seems kind of like it's got all the basics down. And last couple of times I've flown, I will admit, like I went to the new LaGuardia fairly recently, and I was like, wow, people no longer just want simplicity. They don't care if you can get super easy parking and just be done with it. They want fancy. And that is the direction we're going to go, and hopefully we can now rise in the rankings, and probably it will increase the cost of our flights, but that's what America wants.
What kind of fancy? Like Abu Dhabi?
You should see LaGuardia. They have dancing water features.
Yeah, Nashville is very nice. In Boston you can actually get a live lobster, and they put it in a little thing, and you can bring it back with you. I don't know if you could still do that, but a few years back, everybody who flew into I would catch a flight to D.C. from Little Rock through Nashville, and when the flight came in from Boston, they all had these boxes, and they had live lobsters.
Wow.
Well, I'm so used to airports being unpleasant places that you have to go through, and then you get on the airplane, and you know, fortunately, if you're married, your wife will take the middle seat. But they're just unpleasant. You're jammed into them, and I can't wait to get in and out. And I think Lambert makes it pretty easy to get in and out. And I don't want to hang around the airport and look at the fountains and. You know, I get someplace, I just want to get out of the airport.
Maybe we could put a data center at the airport.
On that note, we want to
I like
announce
that
it.
letter writer who thought it should be in the AT&T building. By the way.
That actually was a great
Yeah,
letter.
so that was good.
Thank you very much for joining us on Last Call. We'll see you again next week at this time.